Why is the US dollar falling, and why is President Trump not worried about it seemingly? That's the question that is being asked right now, because the president has not just played down the concerns over the currency, he has gone a step further, in fact, and said that a weaker dollar is great, according to him. This week, the American currency, by the way, slipped to its lowest level against the euro in more than 4 years, and that has triggered a fresh debate. Is the White House quietly backing a cheaper dollar? If so, what does it mean for the American economy, and what's really happening? And what does this mean for the rest of the world? Let's just break this down for you bit by bit. First, the numbers. Since President Trump took office in January last year, the dollar has fallen by around 12% against major global currencies. That includes the euro, the Japanese yen, and others. Now, the euro has also crossed $1.20 for the first time since 2021, and that means €1 buying more dollars than before, a clear sign also of a weaker US currency. But why is this happening now? One major reason is President Trump's own comments. When asked if the falling dollar worried him, he said, "No, I think it's great," quote unquote. Markets also took that as a signal. It suggested that the White House is not trying to defend the currency. In financial markets, meanwhile, signals from political leaders matter, of course. And when investors sense that a government is comfortable with a weaker currency, they often sell more of it. And that, in turn, pushes the value down further. A third factor is the Federal Reserve, of course, America's central bank. President Trump has often criticized the current Fed chief for not cutting the interest rates fast enough. We have been telling you about this. Now, Powell is expected to be replaced, and investors are worried that the next Fed chair could favor much lower interest rates. And why does that matter, you ask? Because higher interest rates usually strengthen a currency. They attract foreign investors who want better returns. Lower rates pretty much do the opposite. They make a currency less attractive. So fears of future rate cuts are adding more pressure on the dollar. Why would any president then welcome a weaker currency? That remains the question. Because it carries some advantages. For starters, exports. When the dollar is cheaper, American products become cheaper overseas, and that makes American goods more competitive in global markets. It helps manufacturers sell more abroad, just to put this simply. Second, trade deficit. The US imports more than it exports. A weaker dollar basically can help reduce that gap by encouraging exports and discouraging imports. Third, company profits, very crucial. Many US companies earn money overseas when they convert the foreign earnings into dollars. They basically get more money if the dollar is weak, and that boosts profits. All that sounds great for sure, but there is a serious downside here. The biggest risk, of course, is inflation. When the dollar falls, imports become more expensive. That includes oil, electronics, machinery, consumer goods. Those higher costs are passed on to the consumers, the tax-paying citizens of the country. People pay more in the pump, in stores, online. That hurts households already under financial pressure. And then there is another major risk here, that of confidence. The US benefits enormously from global trust in its economy. Foreign investors buy trillions of dollars worth of US bonds. And that keeps the American borrowing costs low and helps fund the government spending as well. If the investors begin to see a falling dollar as a warning sign, they may reduce their investments, and that in turn would push up the interest rates. It would make government borrowing more expensive, and it could also slow down the economic growth. Some economists are warning that this is playing with fire. Officials like the Treasury Secretary still say they support a strong dollar, but Trump's comments suggesting he is comfortable with the slide, it seems. His own economic advisors have argued that the dollar has been overvalued for years. They believe reducing its strength could reshape global trade, but managing a currency is risky, to say the least. Once markets believe a government is fine with decline, it can be hard to reverse. For now, markets are watching the developments closely because how far the dollar falls may determine whether this strategy brings growth or creates the next economic problem. How long will you live? Many of us believe the answer lies on what we do, what we eat, our gym routine, or maybe our morning walk. But a new global study claims to deliver a rather blunt reality check. It claims that our genes may have already decided most of our lifespan. According to the paper that's been published, genetics playing a far bigger role in determining lifespan than previously believed. To put it simply, you can stretch life a little with healthy habits, but you cannot rewrite your genetic ceiling. In fact, the researchers analyzed data from 3 major studies of Swedish twins, including twins raised apart, to test whether these findings applied more broadly. They also studied nearly 2,100 siblings of 450 Americans who lived past the age of 100. Their goal was simple: separate deaths caused by accidents or infections from deaths linked directly to aging and isolate the true role of genes. The conclusion, challenging decades of conventional medical thinking. Aging, they say, is mostly hereditary. If your genetic potential tops out at around 80 years, no amount of clean eating or jogging is likely to push that number to 100. You cannot turn someone into a centenarian unless they inherit the genes for longevity. And the researchers used statistical and mathematical models and examined Swedish twins born between 1900 and 1935, a time marked by world wars, the Great Depression, the Spanish flu pandemic. They then compared those findings with Danish twins born between 1870 and 1900, when infectious diseases like cholera killed many at young ages. They focused on cancer, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. Cancer showed the weakest genetic link, while dementia showed the strongest. According to their findings, genes explain more than 50% of the differences in lifespan, far higher than the 25% or less suggested earlier. Previous studies, they claim, skewed the results by including early deaths unrelated to genetics. Still, lifespan matters. Researchers estimating healthy or unhealthy habits can add or subtract about 5 years. Diet, exercise, weight control, not smoking will not change your genetic limit, but they can decide how well and how long within that limit you live. Mexico has made some of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the last decade. A 1,400-year-old tomb has been discovered by the archaeologists, a sculpture of an owl adorning the entrance, whereas several murals are seen in the burial chamber. A look now at some of the most stunning visuals of the ancient tomb. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.